Yep. Oh, we probably don't want to record right now.
No, not right now, but.
Oh,
Oh, no.
Go to the upper left and hit pause. Sorry.
Does literally anyone else want to do that?
No, I see.
This is an audio check.
Ah.
Attendees to see if someone needs to be upgraded to. Nope. No, please don't do me. I'm gonna keep an eye out to attendees, so we'll see.
There's so
Keep an eye out.
Yeah, there's watching our shade, but yes, they lost the piece, but. Which I, the slow like 3 behind, so you play extra. She's like. Yeah.
Much better than the mouse. Still. It's morning. Clear out.
Okay, so everyone, we do not have a quorum, so we're just waiting to get a quorum. Then we'll start the meeting. Welcome everyone who's here. Nice to see everyone.
You. Chris, sorry, I don't have you actually yet.
No, we have.
I know. We had eye contact. Did you guys want RSVPs from people? They're coming or?
We said, okay, sorry. So, Alan is not able to make it today. He is very sick with the flu, and I told him if he's like, I'll try to join online, and I said, if you can, but if not, totally understand.
Yeah.
Melissa is not available, and I have not heard anything from Amanda, Ashley, or Gabby.
I saw Amanda this morning. She was gonna maybe try, but the meeting time falls during pickup time for her kids, so that's really hard for her. So she was not coming one or the other. So
So I don't know, Tyler, how we should wait for the quorum.
It's really up to you.
Let's just give it a few minutes. Is it okay if can we just talk informally about?
Yeah, I mean, as long as we're not gonna talk business, we're good to go. We just can't deliberate towards a decision.
Nice. We can confirm. JJ and Sophie, you can hear us? Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for being on, Sophie and JJ.
yes, thank you.
I keep checking the attendance list just to make sure. Yeah. Okay, perfect. It's still on.
Is it the next one problem too? This is all.
I don't think we've ever had. Yes.
It's
Sometimes
not
we have
canceled.
business.
It usually takes 2 or 3 emails on my end to get an answer from certain folks.
Yeah.
So some people are more responsive than others when I have to.
It's actually 2
Yeah.
attendees as well.
They're not coming.
No, they're.
There's Gabby.
Hi, Gabby.
Sorry, I was having trouble on my end.
Thank you for coming on. We now have a quorum. So thank you. Thanks, Jennifer. All right, then, are you ready to record? There? Are you good? Oh, yeah, it says record. Cat as usual, 5 steps ahead of me. Thank you. All right, well then let's call this meeting to order today. So I want to start with our land acknowledgement to say that the city of Boise acknowledges the ancestral, cultural, traditional, and unceded territory of the Shoshone, Bannock, and Northern Paiute people on which the city is situated. So today we have a good agenda. I just want to say thanks to Kat and Jennifer and Chris for us pulling this together, and so look forward to it. The first thing we want to do is talk about the minutes, and I hope everyone has had a chance to review the minutes from last time. And so I'd welcome a motion about the minutes, if anyone would like to make one. Any commissioner, that is.
I would like to make a motion.
Chris Clegg has motion to approve the minutes.
I second.
Second from JJ. Thanks, JJ. Any discussion? All those in favor? Raise your hand or say aye, or
I,
as in our Lions Club, we say roar. So, whatever it is. So thank you. So we have really two things to talk about today. First is that we're going to hear from Stephanie, which I'm sure she's super ready and excited, ready to go here. And then we're going to get an update from Jennifer about the department now that she's a veteran of, gosh, almost like months with all that goes with that. So that's what we'll be talking about today. So Stephanie, when you're ready.
So that's the big slide. Some map slides might be out of order compared to my report, but change from the agenda. I'm updating on the linen fence public art installation, which happened on October 11th. And the 8th Street Greenbelt mural, which was completed on October 19th. And I just wanted to show pictures of the installation for the Irma Hayman House Memoirs of Irma Hayman wall. So the first one is the completion of the 8th Street Greenbelt mural in the tunnel by Addie Boswell. She has decided to name and title the piece E Pluribus Unum, out of many one. She kind of came up with that title after the completion and after all of the community engagement we had with the mural. There were over 50 volunteers that came through and helped paint the mural from October 12th through the 19th. So probably about 100 hours of volunteer time went into helping paint that mural. And then it's got an anti-graffiti top coat as well. So it was just a really cool process. The energy down at the mural when all the painting was happening, and just the different people that were involved. We had some students from Boise High School, some people from the Agency for New Americans and Interfaith Sanctuary, as well as just people passing by that just kind of lingered for a little while. And Addie would walk up to them and just say, "Hey, do you want to paint? You grab a brush and paint." So that was just really cool. And as you can see,
Was it KTVB too?
mhm.
Yep, her piece was beautiful.
Yeah.
That made me cry a lot. That's good.
And could you just, I didn't quite hear what you said about the anti-graffiti.
Yes, there is 2 coats of an anti-graffiti coating on the mural, so that will, if should there be any graffiti done to it, we can always rub it off and it won't hurt the mural.
Is that something that she did when she was done with it, or did that come in afterwards?
We required that as part of her contract, so we specified what material to use and she purchased it and added it on with a roller. So the next one is the installation of the Linen District fence piece, which is Familiar Comforts by Rachel Mayer. And that is 4 panels made out of ripstop fabric and polyfill. So it's kind of a 3D
quilt effect. So we're trying something different this year. And along with that, we added into the contract that instead of this being a normal commission, we, at the end of the display period, so next fall, we have the option of just giving it back to the artist if we decide that it didn't, fare well and we don't want to bring it into the collection, or if we liked how it survived outside for a year and we want to keep it, we can. And that is the public art team installing the piece. So it was really fun. Rachel Mayer is a really fun artist to work with. And then the next one is the completion of the memoirs of Irma Hayman, which is the series of 8 works installed on the wall by Vinnie Bagwell. So that was a 2-day installation, and Vinnie was there right before the opening.
It was amazing.
Yeah, they do.
Until we have fall, amazing.
Pat, how did you put that in minutes?
I will. Audience.
So was her dog, I never got to officially meet her, but it seemed like her dog was pretty present in the moment.
Yes, Chica. Dog's name is Chica.
Chica?
Very, yes.
17-year-old dog,
Yeah.
the herniated bladder or something.
Wow.
Is it very sweet?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been interesting, so I started work at Boise State, and easy for me to say. And it's amazing how much just talk about the Hayman House has been present on campus. Pretty high, much higher level of awareness than I would have thought. Including some people who like walked over at lunch. So it's amazing, terrific. Congratulations to all of you. Way to go.
And that's the end of my presentation. You-
Okay.
Can I hand it this? Sure.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Been busy. All right, so Jennifer, it's all yours.
Let's see, so members of the commission, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you a little bit today. The staff is going to be bored out of their minds because they heard this at the staff meeting last week. So I may switch it up a little bit to sort of gear some things toward the commissioners, but I'm afraid the staff is going to bore them. So, sorry. Yeah. So I put this together really to let the staff know and then also to let the commission know here. Sorry. Slideshow. What I've been doing and why, I think I scurry around a lot, and I thought it would be helpful for the staff to understand kind of at a holistic level why I've been addressing and certain things that I've been addressing, and I thought should do that as well, and to get your feedback on it as well. You may know or not, I'm not sure, I'm still unfamiliar with exactly how much the commission communicates with the city, sort of on a general level. So I'll just tell you that before I came along, HR did an organizational assessment of the department. So if I'm telling you, it looks like you.
No, this is great. No, we've not had that type of dialogue. So thank you.
Yeah, so HR did an org assessment. There was obviously a lot of turmoil in the last year, and before that, 2 years of COVID. And so I think HR sort of wanted to assess where some of the needs that the staff identified were, right? And so they handed me a very small report after interviewing, I think, 12 of the 14 people in the department, and then some of the responses were done by handwriting or by a written response. And the takeaways that I got from that report were number one, that the department felt siloed and was not necessarily aligned well with the rest of the city and the rest of the city's mission. That on an individual level, many of them felt that they lack clear roles and expectations, that there's low pay and not enough staff to do the work that is in front of us. And then a real desire for transparency and strong administration. So those are sort of the takeaways. They plus mayor's objectives have really driven the first 2 months of my tenure here. So along those lines, these are some of the things that I've sort of identified as ways to address those things. So I'm going to kind of go through each one of those things on the next few slides to explain sort of how I'm addressing those to start with. And, obviously, these are evolving over time, but these are the things that I've focused on early on. So the question of siloed department and the sort of lack of alignment with the rest of the organization, as I sort of listened to the staff and had lots of meetings with each of them, my sense was that, I think everybody in this room is a huge fan of what our department does, right? Like, we think we're amazing. And I think there has been not just a lack of understanding of the rest of the organization about exactly what we do. I had a great example just yesterday. I got an email that sort of made me chuckle from somebody in Public Works. I don't know who this is, asking us if we do Section 106 analyses and if I could send an architectural historian out to assess the ground of the water renewal plant. And I was like, there is an educational problem here, right? Like, they don't know, a lot of people don't know what we do and what our mission is and what our goal is. And so, along those lines, I've really, and this was with the direction of the mayor's office, been really reaching out to other departments to figure out where some of those alignments can occur, where some of the cross-pollination across the different departments in the organization, we could have an effect of sort of elevating what we do and making it more visible and making it just educating the rest of the organization on what our goals are and how we can help them too, right, and make their work better. So along those lines, we've of course been working with Parks and Recs. That was low hanging fruit because of Doug. Of course, we actually took a great field trip to Spalding Ranch. And Kristen and I have started very early stage conversations about whether our taking that over as a cultural site might be a 5-year long range. And Doug was the one that recommended it, and I think it's a great idea, and I think Kristen might be excited about it too. So, and then of course, there's parks are great places for art and interpretive work. I met recently with the director of libraries to talk about the potential for dispersed programming throughout the city. A lot of what we do right now, history-wise especially, is really focused here in City Hall. But a lot of people don't come to City Hall. My mother came to have lunch with me, and she's lived here since 1982. She said, I've never been to City Hall. And I was like, what are you talking about? So that was really shocking. So hopefully a relationship with libraries will help us to, obviously art is already in the libraries. In fact, there was just an installation in Ballard Crossing, in the last couple of weeks. But there is an opportunity to use their display space and get out into the neighborhoods, into Collister and Cole-Music. And so the library director and I are going on a drive around in a couple of weeks to talk about ways that we can really elevate this work. Planning and Development Services is doing a big thing right now that they're calling Design Boise, which is the way that Tim Keene, the director, described it to me is what you might do before you create a comp plan, which of course we've already created a comp plan, we already are working on a zoning code. So we're sort of like moving backwards, but the idea is to have a design of what the city of Boise is going to look like in the future. And so along those lines, he has asked our team and Travis in particular to work on the history piece of that. So we're going to be working on that with Tim Keene. CCDC, you can see it's blank there because I'm devoting a few slides to that later on. So I'm going to skip over it for now.
Do you mind? I'm gonna jump.
What's that?
They're saying that
Oh,
Stephanie's
I'm
is still
so
on there, so.
Wait, that what?
I think if you stop share and then
Okay,
reshare yours.
Sure. Okay,
You
sorry.
just gotta check.
Yeah. of course.
Thank you.
Hang on. There, this one.
I think there is one question in the attendees before you share.
Oh, okay.
That was.
That is the
That was it.
question? Okay,
Yes.
great.
Can you guys see it now? Okay.
Okay.
You only missed one slide here. There it is. the 4 things, and now I'm gonna go through each 4 of these, so.
Cool, thank you.
Yep, thank you for bringing that to my attention. We've also met with the city clerk and with the head of Department of Finance and Administration to try to make some progress on the archives. This could very well be an ordinance revision that needs to happen, but as you, Tyler's chuckling over there, he's trying to smirk, but he's smirking. But we actually had a super productive meeting with Linda, who's the head of DFA, and with the clerk, Jamie Heinzinger, to talk about the possibility of a variety of things, but basically pulling our departments together. Our archivist needs to, and our archives program absolutely has to be working hand in hand with the clerk for records retention schedules, for a whole host of things. So one of the big wins that we got is Danielle is going to be sitting on the interview team for the new records specialists that they are hiring for right now. So little steps, right, with long-term goals of making sure that our archives program is working hand in hand with the clerk and making some progress there. So that's a big goal of mine. Office of Community Engagement. I know there's been some stumbling on the tribal initiatives, and again, I'm probably telling you guys things you already know, but it has felt a little bit to me just in the first couple of months like there has not been a consistent and cohesive strategy for tribal engagement. And so I'm trying to work at, frankly, the mayor's office level to make sure I understand what the goals are there and where we as a department can do what we do best, which is the cultural outreach and the history and the art. And so I'm still working on that. I don't have anything really to report right now, but just so you know, that's happening. And then, of course, Public Works, in case you don't know this, it's very exciting, but Public Works put into the budget, and it's actually in the budget for this year, and it's on the timeline to hire in March, an actual human being who will sit in our department and work under Stephanie to implement the Public Works Master Art Plan. And so we're super excited about that. And on top of that, we have gotten verbal buy-in from the mayor's office to mimic that for the airport so that we can implement the airport master plan as well. So that's how I, just those few things. Obviously, these are all going to be slow and methodical, but that's sort of how I've been approaching sort of the alignment to the cyber department, really trying to elevate and give some visibility to what we do across the different organization. Departments within the organization. Oops. Any questions on that before we move on? Oh, good. Good. My staff, I think, I shouldn't call it my staff, the amazing staff. I think might think I'm crazy. Definitely attacking a lot of different angles, but I'm trying to address a lot of different things. So with regard to roles and expectations, that is something that I'm still working on. And we are going to have an offsite starting an all-day offsite on November 15th. That's being led by Tony Wiles. He is the head of organizational development in the HR department. And part of what we're going to be doing is looking at sort of big long-term goals of the department and saying, looking at our mission, making sure our mission is right. And then saying, okay, how do our jobs fit into that and feed up to that? My goal with the whole department is to, and this is based on listening to them during all those first one-on-ones, is to help them all be less reactive and responsive to 1,000 requests that come, and instead have a plan that may take 3 to 5 years to get going, but allow them then to be proactive. This is what we have to offer. These are the menu of things that we do. And that way they can feel in better control of the work that they do on a day-to-day basis and more strategic and more thoughtful, I think, as if they could be more thoughtful with the work they do. But the idea is to help them understand the role that they have and each of their jobs and make sure that they understand how it rolls up and what they can say no to versus what we do really, really well and can do moving forward. So again, it's a long-term game, but That's the goal. I did have them early on, take the Strengths Finders assessment. And I think we're gonna be talking a lot about it at the offsite. The first half of it is gonna be spent talking about the Strengths Finders assessments and how our strengths work together to make us a great team. And I'm hoping that it's not everything, but it's something that brings us all together and has given us, we've had some fun with it at some of the staff meetings, talking about things that have surprised us about our own findings and the things that are like, yeah, of course, that's what it says about me, because I already knew that about myself. So I think that's going to be a nice thing to bring us together as a team. I've also implemented something called the top 5 accomplishments in the week, and that's so that really the staff, not just I get visibility into what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, but also so that they can see what each other are doing on a day-to-day basis. And I've really pushed them to make those meaningful, not just, I had a meeting, but like, okay, what came out of the meeting and what's it going toward, right? And so on Friday, every week, we have an ongoing email that bounces and everybody's on it, and you get to see what everybody's been doing during the week.
Can I just clarify, top
Please.
5 accomplishments per person?
Per person.
Love that.
That's correct. Yep.
Awesome.
And the goal is that it takes them less than 10 minutes to do, but it also allows them to look back at what they've done for the week and also look forward. So they also put on there, like, what am I going to do next week? Not like a task list, but really like, what am I going to be focused on? And the ideas again, so that we have visibility into each other's jobs and what we're all doing, and can find some synergy there. There's so much synergy with what everybody's doing on a day-to-day basis. I've also asked them all to set goals for the year. And Tony in HR has been kind enough to tell me that was a perfect mistake, that I asked them to set their goals a little maybe prematurely, because we're going to be having this offsite, but it's great because we're all putting our goals together. We're going to bring them to the offsite as sort of jumping off points to like help us all be thinking about, okay, well, these were my goals and these ones still work based on the new mission or based on the existing mission. These ones might not work as well, etc. So, yeah, so, and I've already mentioned the offset we're going to be having. So, all right.
So everyone has taken their strengths finder?
They have. Yes, like the mission is welcome to see the
The results. Like a 25-page report. It's pretty intense.
I do. Did you?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
gotcha.
also took it.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
HQ is there. Did you ever take it? I took it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll share with you guys we have a great grid that shows everybody down the left and then where the whole team together falls. It's pretty good.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So,
And the categories is blue, which I.
I was gonna-
does anybody that's sitting in the room have blue? Yeah, so there's some obvious like, and there's a lot of achievers in this room and on the staff, so it's very interesting to look at, what we're less strong.
Yeah. We speak that word.
Yeah. Are you looking at Tyler's? And just for those of you who are online and can't see what's happening in the room, they're all advancing at Tyler's top 5. What's your number 1?
What would you guess?
I don't think I know you well enough to say actually.
Achiever.
Achiever, yeah. You're a lawyer for crying out loud, of
I mean,
course.
you said you got a lot in the room, so
Oh, well, yeah. So just a brief note on staffing. I already mentioned the public works position. We are working on the airport position as well. I'm gonna again hold off on CCBC and talk about that in a minute on its own special thing. We are working to post Josh's position right now. In fact, Stephanie and Kat and I are gonna, this is gonna be news to them. I just met briefly with Megan McDuncan right before this meeting in HR, and we are gonna hopefully post that tomorrow after the 3 of us get together to nail down sort of what that introductory language is gonna be. Elagio, I will tell you, has been lifting heavy the last 8 weeks and been doing a really good job of that. And so I have been very pleased with him, and he's done such a good job that I've sort of like poo-pooed having to hire for Josh. But I also want Elagio to stick around. So we are going to get that posted so that he's got some assistance. Of course, Kristen was promoted about a month ago now. I think it was effective September 25th. if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, speaking of a round of applause.
And so Kristen's done a phenomenal job getting, working with HR to get the Irma Haven site coordinator position, and in January, the James Castle House coordinator position open. Sam, of course, is already fulfilling and maintains that temp position over at James Castle House. One of the things that we are doing, and Kristen's been very kind to be open to my idea about this. One of my long-term goals, as I was actually just telling the chair of the commission before we started, is to really develop a strong, strategic, comprehensive relationship with Boise State, both for workforce development reasons, but also because they're the other biggest, entity in the valley that we are closely aligned with. And so Kristen has been kind enough to take my suggestion to convert Sam's analogous position over at Irma Haven House into 2 internships that we're going to be filling with Boise State students. And I do know that means more work for Kristen, because it's a little more training on a regular basis. And it's a pilot. She's been kind enough to allow me to pilot this, and we'll see how it goes. Nothing's ever permanent, right? But we are working on getting those interns and hiring them in January. The idea being that the 19-hour temporary position at the house will instead be filled by 2 interns that will then report up to the coordinator at that site. And then where will Sam? Sam will be at James Castle House. So
Okay.
yeah, he's not on it.
Okay, so there will be a permanent James Castle House person, a permanent Irma Haven House with interns.
So
Yes, yeah, so we've got the coordinator position will be at each site, and then Sam is a temp, but instead of that temp position, we'll have the internship at the Haven House.
got it. And if Sam ever goes away for any reason, which I'm pretty praise that he does not, then we might implement a similar thing with art students, or so we're reaching out to urban studies and to history for the Irma Haven House. We may end up going to the Work U program at the university to do that instead. So we'll see how it goes. Like I said, it's a pilot, and we're sort of testing it out. But I really hope that by getting students involved, again, we can really have sort of a pipeline potentially of people to employ. But second, that we are building the bigger workforce, whether it's workforce for the city itself or for the creative economy. So
And just to reiterate, also, you had mentioned, and just for everyone listening, you had mentioned paid internships, not.
yes,
Just to clarify.
always.
Paid internships.
I do not believe in unpaid internships, for the record. I'm against that.
Thank you.
Say that again.
David experience.
Okay, I don't want to be taking too much time. So did I miss anything? No, okay. Having worked with the mayor's office, Courtney and the mayor, obviously the public is the key thing, right? How can we reach more of the public, serve the public, serve as a convener for arts and history organizations? So that everything that I'm doing I have been very focused internally because of the turmoil that the department has undergone, but I'm finally feeling like I can maybe get my head above water and start really turning to public, because that's really what's going to guide everything that I hope to do when I'm in this position. It was very clearly communicated to me from the mayor's office that smoothing over, or I don't know exactly what the right way is to say, but making the CCTC relationship more functional was an absolutely top priority. Primarily, for lots of reasons, but I think one of them is that there are 2 urban renewal districts that are sunsetting in the next few years. And the way urban renewal districts work is that there's like no money, and then there's a whole bunch of money. And so it's really imperative that we capture some of that funding for arts and history in these districts. And so figuring out how to make sure that our department and that agency have a strong relationship is communicated to me that was like one of the top things I needed to do. And then professionalization of the department. I had said this to the staff when I was presenting this before, and that sounds really like negative. And I don't think it was. I think that it's actually exactly the same way of saying that there was a lack of alignment with the rest of the organization. So I'm using the term that was communicated to me, but I don't think it's any different than what I've already gone over with you. Archives is really, frankly, one of my big goals. And so not necessarily one of the mayor's yet. And then fundraising and funding and grant writing is one of the other ones that they communicate. So the public. Again, you know, this is sort of going to serve as the guide for everything that I plan to do, but really to elevate the work that we do, make sure the community is aware of it, serve as the convener for arts and history organizations throughout the city. And actually just this week, we've had some great examples of that, right? We met yesterday with the city, a representative from City Club. And I mean, I don't think that I think this kind of stuff has been going on already throughout this organization, but I think that, you know, I think by putting the language on it, I think it maybe gives us all a different framework to look at how we can serve the different arts and history organizations throughout the city. And I think that's sort of what's driving my goals. Identifying what they're doing. So just yesterday, they said, you know, we sort of said to them as we were talking to the City Club representative, well, what do you guys need from us? Like, well, how can we help you? Right, in terms of like, you guys are doing these various programming things, we're doing our programming things, but how can we help you with these things? And they said, well, you know, you've got great lists and you've got social media. And so I think that's the question we need to be asking everybody we meet with is, what do you need from the city? What do you need from our department? And then when we, you know, I mean, that's an informal way of gathering information, but hopefully when we hear it all, we can find that common ground, find that through, and then provide that for them. And so that's sort of I'm hoping for the public. Okay, I'm finally going to get to the CCDC stuff now. So as I mentioned, we've got these two districts sunsetting. River Myrtle District sunsets in September. They're on the same fiscal year as the city, so September 30th, 2024, just now less than 2 years away. September 25 for the west side. My understanding from just what other people in the department have told me is that basically in the past, our department has more or less asked CCDC to hire somebody to do their art projects. And we've been told no over and over and over. And so I didn't really want to go back to them and sort of ask the same question, just to be told no again. So I went into the first few meetings and spent a lot of resources, a lot of time on this relationship over the first few weeks of being, or for a few months of being here. And you know, the way that their funding works and the way that their mission is set out, it really does not make sense for them, frankly, to have an art person on staff. Like I understand why they've said no. It doesn't, that's just not what they're set up to do. And so, you know, I sort of explained to them from our perspective, what some of the issues are, right? Okay, so we have all this art in your district that you guys have paid for, but there's no money that's left over for maintaining it, and, you know, all these things. So what we have come to on that point is they have agreed verbally to fund a deferred maintenance plan in both districts. And there are lots of details to work out with regard to what that means. And I will again just give major props to Elagio, who's been working his tail off to try to do this, identifying, first of all, how much art and what pieces of art are in each of these boundaries, right? And then to determine what needs to be done on each of them, whether it's major repairs and maintenance, or it's, you know, for the next 3 years, how often does it need to be cleaned? How much staff time of his does it take to go out there and do that kind of work, right? And then once we hit that, because the goal is when we hit the sunset, September 30th, 2024, we want each of these pieces of art to be like in the best condition that they can be So that then when the city takes over, which I'll get to in a bit, we are dealing with the best of the best, right? It's in good shape and CCDC has paid for it. But once that district ends, they're done, right? And the law is set up and we can't do anything about that. So like, we have to recognize that it's our responsibility once that's complete. So again, I'm handing it to Elijah because this is a big lift I'm asking him to do, to plan out 3 years for a couple hundred pieces of art. It's a big deal. And so he's been, he's just been super about that. He spent a lot of time working through it. And then Stephanie has also been really great with helping me understand the specifics of how the public art process goes. This is, as you guys know, as on the commission, I didn't come in as an artist. So this is like, I've had to learn a lot, and she's been teaching me an immense amount over the last couple of months. And part of that has been toward trying to figure out what the workflow is and how our department can be early in the processes of CCDC's projects, and making sure that we're not thrown in at the end to like say, okay, now give us, right? And so Stephanie and I have been working on doing that. And one of the things that I've asked Stephanie to do is to begin attending CCDC meetings every single month, to make sure that we're in on the ground level and we know what's happening and we are there, present physically. They know that we're there and we are in the process. So we obviously have some pretty significant projects coming up. I actually missed a couple on here. There's also the bike trio, the billboard, and yeah, did I get all of them then with those billboard and yeah, okay,
Those 3,
yeah. So I'm excited about this. They are excited. They're actually really excited to work with us and excited to have a process in place that kind of can maybe be rolled out for all our subsequent districts as they begin to sunset. So I've got my fingers crossed. As I keep saying to the staff, nobody's said no to me yet. I'm just waiting for the day that they like, somebody says no, but right now, I'm like, okay, I think they're doing okay so far. Okay, any questions on the CCDC thing?
I actually have a question. Did that include a discussion about giving the artwork legal standing to remain long-term? Because that's something that we talked about this grant that CCDC has kind of run us into a problem. If they've done this development, they've developed the artwork that then they give to the city that doesn't have any legal standing to remain on the facade of a building or part of a window like we've had in the past where there's no picture filing or anything like that. So the subsequent owner of the building has no responsibility to keep that artwork and has forced us to commission a couple of those pieces.
Yeah.
That's another part of that communication and whatnot. Needs to be worked out.
And that was, I kind of had a follow-up question, which I don't know the answer to yet, but like with the neon sign project, has this in any way altered their perception of us saying like, no, we will not take on the neon sign project, but they may go forward with that anyway? There are some projects that.
I said, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, it's just.
Yeah, I don't even actually, not even sure.
Oh, so in the past, they have had some art projects like the gem block where, it really wasn't coordinated with us in terms of the legality, any sort of easements or the sustainability of the piece. And then when it was gifted to the city, we have since learned, like, no, they may have some visions and ideas and projects which are great, but we just don't feel that they are sustainable or like, and one such project is neon signs. Install these antique historic neon signs, but the current vision and the current location, it will take a lot more money than I think they even are aware of to maintain. So we kind of said, no, we will not support that, but if they go forward with it, fine, it's on them. But it does create kind of a legal quagmire in terms of we still look like we're responsible because it's just on city property.
Yeah.
So it's one of the kind of weird.
Yeah, conversation I thought we had.
I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't know.
There's so much.
I just don't, they don't think, oh, yes, give us the plan for works they haven't made yet. Right? And I don't know if that's something that they want
Yeah.
factored into the system.
So Tyler, to answer your question, I know you and I have talked about that already, and that has not been the highest priority of things, but it's definitely on the list we have to, because I've got the legal language that, you gave me and all that sorts of things. So, yeah, it's on the agenda. There's a lot of things about the relationship between the city and CCDC as it relates to public art that need to be kind of ironed out.
Very complex, yeah.
Yeah, it is complex, definitely. So I sort of, I said this to, at the staff meeting earlier this week, that one of the things that I learned when I was running my business is that, you know, like I said earlier, we're all our biggest fans, right? This group of people is like, yeah, historians and artists are amazing. But you know, in the greater world, we do still have to sell what we do. And so I think that's a bit of a mindset thing that, you know, I've asked everybody just to begin to sort of think about that, the fact that not everybody understands exactly what we're doing and why we do it and the value that it adds to their lives. And so I just want everybody to sort of think about the fact that we do it to sell that. And on that line, Jennifer and I have talked about the possibility in this next year of one of the campaigns she runs being really sort of about the identity of the department and making sure that we communicate that on social media and that internally and externally that we have a sense and a story to tell about what we do as an organization. So I'm super excited about that. Jennifer will run that beautifully. And then I already talked about the second bullet here. The last bullet is about designing our department space. And, you know, that's a tough one just because I think, I don't know, there's so much change that's going on right now in the department. And I think that is like one of those, like physical change is almost sort of the hardest because I hang on to. But we have been asked by the rest of the organization to think about our space and unfortunately to give up the Francis Perkins room for some other needs that the organization has. And so as a result of that, I've been working with facilities to think about how to organize our space, get some new furniture, basically in the short run. I guess in 5 years, they have bigger plans to do whatever they're going to do with City Hall. So this is sort of a short-term fix. But what I've noticed personally in the department is that we are not organized in a way that I think necessarily makes for good collaboration. We're very spread out. We're kind of in little corners. And so my hope with the reorganization of the space or redesign of the space with everybody's buy-in, of course, is to make it so that the physical space that we share encourages teamwork. And that's what I'm really sort of doing with that. So we're on the early stages of that, but that's where we are. You know, the archives again, I hesitate to say this is like a pet project because this is like a critical mission project in my opinion. And I think my way of approaching this with Danielle is to really help educate council and the mayor on the fact that this is really one of the programs that is necessary to, in fact, create a city for everyone. And you may have heard me at the Irma Heyman House say that archives are what help us enrich the narrative of our city. Our narrative right now is very traditional. You know, pioneers came, we farmed, we mined, and we're entrepreneurs. And really the idea with archives and doing historical research is to enrich that and to, you know, tell the story of lots of different people. And I think the archives are a hugely important part of that. Right now, unfortunately, we are losing records in the city because of the records retention policy. And that's of grave concern to Danielle and to me. So this is definitely, as I mentioned earlier, going to require an ordinance, right? Okay. Funding was the other big thing, and I really want to make sure that I cover this in as much detail as you all want me to. But funding for the work that we do was very clear to me after maybe the first month, biggest problem that we have. And as I really spent some time digging into the ordinance, and then talking to finance people, talking to the airport finance people, talking to public works finance people, it became very clear to me that the ordinance needed to be rewritten. And so we are embarking on a rewrite of the ordinance. And this is probably one of the most important things that we will do in the early stages of my tenure here that will really set the stage for us moving forward. And the things that, let me just tell you the things that I have discovered and that have basically sparked this effort. Number one, if you look at the way the ordinance is written, 0.4%. So we have 1% that is calculated, and every capital project calculates the 1%, and it's supposed to be set aside. But even that doesn't happen consistently across the general fund, the airport fund. So even though it's written into the ordinance, it's not even done consistently. So that's the first problem. The 0.4%, and this goes back to the CCDC conversation, and what do we do with the ARC once the district sunset, what do we do with the ARC and how do we take care of it? Well, the second major problem with the ordinance is that unlike the 1%, which is calculated on the capital projects, the 0.4% has to go through what's called the budgeting process. And that has been inconsistent and not done consistently again throughout the various funds during the entirety of the ordinance's existence. What that means is that we don't have a bucket of money that we can rely on to do a long-term maintenance plan for a collection that continues to grow every single year. And so instead, it sort of like depends on other departments' goodwill to say, okay, you can have your 4.4 this year, or well, do you really need all that this year? Because you could really probably make do with just this, 0.1 this year, because all you have to do is fix the hinge on the whatever, right? That's not workable for long-term planning for an 800-piece collection of art. And so that's a really fundamental problem. The ordinance has been amazing. Like, let me just say clearly that what we have done, what the city has done with the ordinance up until now for 20 years has been like mind-blowingly phenomenal. But it's kind of like past time. It's past. It no longer serves the function for where the department and the city is today. And so that needs to be fixed. The lack of consistency across the funds, our staff being able to actually plan for the future, it is dependent on this being rewritten so that they can know what they're going to be working with and they can plan for that. And when the ordinance was written, it was an arts commission. There was no history. And so the ordinance also does not really say specifically that we can spend that money on history programming. And so we like to broaden the language to permit some of that.
Has there been any talk about increasing it from the 1%?
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't mean it's going to happen.
But I know a lot of large cities, I think it's 2%. Go to the arts. Denver, I don't know why that's popping into my head, but is it something? Yeah.
And I know Stephanie has experience in cities where it's been more as well.
One and a half.
1.5, yeah. So we haven't figured out what that sweet spot is yet. We're at the very early stages, but we have brought in legal, we have brought in finance people. We are working, Tilly is actually helping with some rewrite. I've talked to Council President Clegg about this. And so it's like on the book, we are doing this. How that's gonna play out exactly, we don't know. There are some political considerations we need to think about. As Stephanie pointed out to me, or reminded me, I should say, because I had completely forgotten, there was some kerfuffle with the state legislature a few years ago with regard to public art funding. So, I think we just need to make sure that we are cognizant of that and sensitive to it. The hope is definitely to do this. So that's a big one. Of course, we're still, I've met with Terry and we'll meet with her again before the end of the year to talk about the foundation and how we want to do some fundraising, what we want to do fundraising for. I have started going out there looking for grants that we could get for some of these things. I'm focused right now on the archives. I'm not positive we're gonna go that direction, but I'm feeling it out just to see if there's opportunities for us to gain some funding for some of the things, the big things we want to do. And then I got some good feedback from the staff regarding the revenue generation, so I'm just gonna pretend that that last little bullet is not there. I'm working. So trends and issues, that's it, actually, that's an old slide, so that's sort of it, I just, I hope it wasn't too much detail for you. I hope I didn't bore you and take too long, but I wanted you to kind of know what I've been up to, because I haven't really had much time with you yet at all. And so, anyway, I'm happy to answer any questions or take suggestions or, you know, information that you have to give on any of these things.
You've been busy.
Yes, of course.
Don't worry, someone will say no to you soon enough.
Sure they will.
Maybe you just have really good woo.
Oh, maybe I do. Oh, it's just not showing up.
26th.
Is it? Oh, I think it's actually maybe the third bit. Amanda is actually good, so. We'll see.
I've only ever known one woo and. She's woo.
Maximum woo.
Yeah, it's like 5 minutes, I got it. Totally winning me over.
Well, I think that this. The content, I think, is really good, and I think that this represents, you know, some of the stuff that we've been talking about with Tyler. And others in the past, is that I felt this has been a bit of a gap since COVID started. And so I would just say that, I mean, to have this type of an update on, I don't know what, maybe 3 times a year sort of a thing, I think would be beneficial, because, and I'd be especially curious from Gabby and Day and Sophie to say, like, how much of this was new to you?
I think most of it, yeah, it was really cool to hear all of that though too. It's very ambitious and like very exciting, and but yeah, I don't have much else to say, but it was all new, so I enjoyed hearing all of that.
Thank you, Gabby. Yeah, I just think that it's, you know, it's part of that gap that we've talked about, and without getting this type of strategic view, you know, you're operating in a more just a more tactical way, right? As a commission, so I think it's great.
Now, I would actually add, because I learned something in these meetings that we had, because the 0.4%, kind of the fundamental issue is that it has language, it says not to exceed 0.4%, it doesn't actually carve out 0.4. And that's seen in the city a lot, and usually it just is like, that's just the language is used, and usually we get to the 0.4%, but what we learned is that that's actually not happening. So I was surprised to find that out, and so that's kind of one of those fundamental issues with the meaning of the ordinances that we're looking to address. But yeah, it was surprising to me that, you know, I know it says not to exceed, that they're actually using that to kind of pare down the funding that's happening, was surprising.
Yeah, any other questions or comments for Jennifer? JJ?
I just want to say, you know, that I think as board members, I feel you should feel free to utilize this as well whenever you see a need for that. I really did appreciate being asked to be part of your booth during the City of Boise's Hispanic Heritage Month celebration out at the City Hall. So things like that, I think I speak for myself, but feel free to always contact me to be a part of things like that.
Thank you, Commissioner Saldana.
Very grateful.
And
Thank you.
I'd also like to call out Jennifer for the communication this week, because if anyone is wondering like what to do with your spare time as commissioners, I think pretty much every day there's a mission. So I don't know, Jennifer, if there's anything in particular that you would call out, but there's a lot going on between Amy's grant winners and other activities.
No, just always feel free to provide, I always want to improve or try to improve our communication, and so it's not because I've been sending out a weekly update that we have to keep doing it, so if there's, ways I can improve that communication. But it helps me stay organized. I feel like it's a good way to keep our staff in the know, and hopefully it keeps our commission in the know and engaged. So we'll doing it.
Well, we're here for you to, help keep you organized, Jennifer. We're all worried about that.
Right.
Okay. Well, that was our agenda for the day. So barring any other hands raised or questions, then we can,
I I know I sent everyone an email, so this isn't new. But I would love to encourage everyone to share the job posting for the Irma Hayman House position widely. If there's anyone you think would be a good fit, essentially, we really, really need someone who's just going to be excellent at building community relationships. So that's kind of our top trait that we need. So share away, please.
Have we gotten many resumes?
We have been getting a good turnout with the postings open until, it's scheduled to be open until the 11th, but we can extend that if we need to. But yeah, I think I want to get, our net as wide as we possibly can. So
We're at 11.
I'm sorry, Ken.
We're at 11. So far, we've had 11 applicants.
And I also do want to mention, we talked about events that Jennifer highlighted, but our artists in residence, we have some activities going on. Yeah.
I really encourage everyone to show up at the November 3rd Fettuccine Forum featuring Darren Perry on the Bear River Massacre. He was featured on Boise State Public Radio's Idaho Matters yesterday. If you want a glimpse of his presentation, I would also highly encourage you to join our current fall resident, James Castle, Antonius and Louis. Their final presentation is this Friday at 6 p.m. It's a virtual presentation, so from the comfort of wherever. And then their open studio, their last and final open studio on Saturday. I went with my kids. I said this on a broken record. I went with my kids last Saturday and it was absolutely incredible. So I highly recommend attending or joining Antonius in their open studio event Saturday from 11 to 1. Show up.
And the virtual, is there a link on the Jamie Castle House?
James Castle House, Arts and History, social media, and my weekly update. Yep.
Yeah, and maybe I'll just make a comment. As the veteran member of the commission, that which hardly seems possible, but here we are. So commissioners, I would encourage you to, since COVID, we've just lived in a different space. And we have, our ability to support the department has been, muted for obvious reasons. What I would ask everyone to do is really double down on your participation in the events. So taking Fettuccine Forums as an example, before the pandemic, when we had Fettuccine Forums, it was very typical that we would have between our AHAT members and our commission members, that we would have 3 or 4 or 5 people present. And it was always a great opportunity to see other commissioners or AHAT people. But whatever those activities are, I think as a commission, that's one way that we could really improve demonstrating our support for the team, being able to participate like JJ just mentioned. So really take that calendar and really try to apply that in such a way, because you never walk away from any of the activities. thinking like, oh my gosh, I wasted that time. That's never the case. So just if you're comfortable with it, then let's dive in and be as supportive as possible.
Thank you.
Amanda Ash has a question. I don't know what is going on.
Hi, Amanda.
Hey, everybody. Can you see me or hear me? Or all of the
We hear you
in my house? You know, one of the things I was wondering if it would be easy. Oh, hang on, I'm getting promoted.
Congratulations.
There she is.
Always nice to be promoted. I will take that. And if there's a raise, Jen, I would also like that too. But this may seem silly, but I was wondering, John, knowing that everybody, if there's like a few, and I'm realizing as I say this may be a dumb idea, but there are like mommies on, just a second, that we have like a few like signature events, right? Like the Fettuccine Forum is like a signature event of the, let me move to a different.
You're fine. Yeah.
Is there a way we can get calendar invites for that? Is there a way to do that? Or for ones that you think, if that's like not too much of a thing, if we know those things are far enough out in advance, and Jennifer, like if it's not too big of an ask to do that?
Nope, it's great. I love that feedback. Thank you. And you can always decline, right? If it becomes too much.
That would be great. Or just like, you know, John and Jen, like as you guys are thinking about that, there's certain things where you really want us to turn out and force, knowing that there's so many. Because we want to turn out and force where you want us to turn out and force, like whether just that would be wonderful.
And I definitely agree with Amanda's question. So Amanda, thank you for the suggestion. People's calendars are complicated and for me, putting the Fettuccine Forum as an example out on the calendar, as soon as they're scheduled, we could add those. So as opposed to just a sort of a thing, but
Yeah, not all of them, because there's so much amazing stuff that everybody is doing, but yeah, just where you guys thought made sense, that would be wonderful.
Thank you for the
I
suggestion.
agree, and I think that, with Amy has a good feel for a lot, there's a lot of events that go on in that space, but Amy, I'm sure that you could make some priority suggestions to us. Yeah.
And I also think an important thing for us as commissioners too, one thing I took away from AHAT was when I go to grant recipients events, ensuring that they're mentioning that they received a grant from the city. Story, I'm a season ticket holder, they always do it. And at the beginning of the event, they say, thank you for our sponsors. We're also a grant recipient. So just kind of being there to make sure we have a presence and that people know, the city did give a grant for this thing, I think is really important. Plug for grants.
I think it's great, and I'm with Amanda, we don't want to overtax anyone, but to the extent it was supportable, we'd be all in for that. Okay. Good conversation. Thanks, everybody. Hope everyone has a great holiday break. I just want to point out that I told this to Jennifer and she looked at me with a certain look, and I told her that I'm going to Alaska for Thanksgiving, where it's going to be like 19 degrees.
You're
Like-
lucky if it's 19.
I know, right?
That's awesome.
Voluntarily.
As a Minnesotan, I applaud that effort, John. Good for you.
We love our grandkids.
Sorry, could you formally move to adjourn already? And then
Okay.
before I was out.
Can we get a motion to adjourn?
I would like to formally motion to adjourn.
All right, Chris, any seconds?
Second.
Thank you, Gabby. Seconded by Gabby. All those in favor? Opposed? So moved, we are adjourned. Thanks all, appreciate everyone's efforts.
Thank you. Bye.